All right, welcome everybody to the Studio 360 VR video podcast here at Adobe Max 2016. I'm at the metal booth here with Matt, and you're going to be presenting real soon.
Yeah.
What do you do?
So I'm the creative director and partner at Lightsail VR. We're a live-action virtual reality production company.
Okay.
We're a turnkey shop. Basically, we are committed to telling great stories with live-action cinema in virtual reality.
Well, let's talk about storytelling in VR, because it's so much different than it is in traditional.
It is.
Right? I mean, give us some pointers as to how is it different?
It's different, and yet it's very much the same. Because just like in traditional storytelling, you need to have compelling characters, compelling conflict, and something interesting for your audience to watch. It's different in how we capture that.
Right.
Because we're left without a lot of the traditional tools that storytellers today have become really accustomed to. Things like the close-up, things like montage. And now we're presented with something else that's really challenging, which is, where do we put the camera? And who are you? Because watching
And where does that crew go?
Exactly.
Right.
Where the crew goes, not as important, because it's easy to shoot a clean plate, it's easy to plate people out, that's just a simple visual effects thing. But more important is when you're watching a cinematic experience, you're no longer watching a 2D proscenium, I'm here and the story is there, you're in it, you're immersed.
Right.
And so that changes psychologically how you feel in the scene. In a horror piece, it's easier to be scared. In a documentary piece, it's easier to feel empathetic. And so what we try to think a lot about when we design stuff at Lightsail is, who are you? And how are you watching the scene? Is your head turning this way? How do cuts impact the storytelling?
Right.
It's the thing called presence, right? That's the buzzword. Because right now, let's be honest, cinematic VR doesn't have a lot going for it. The resolution's low,
right.
The headsets are clunky, storytelling is still very in its infancy.
Right.
So, but the one thing that VR has, way better than any other medium, is this feeling that I am actually there. I'm sitting in that room watching my favorite band play. I am on the deck of a pirate ship, seeing a mutiny happen around me. And so we try to take all those elements and say, how can we enhance that feeling of presence? How can we enhance that feeling of being there?
But beyond that too, it's the fact that the audience is now the DP. Because
Correct.
they could be watching us here like this now, or they could literally be looking at my feet, or they can be looking back there. So how do you take that into account for the storyline itself?
It's an absolutely great question, and I think it's something that a lot of filmmakers are struggling with. And the answer that I always come up with is the audience will watch the most interesting thing in the space.
Us right now,
right.
hopefully.
Hopefully they're not watching the Radeon booth or over here, right? Hopefully you guys are watching us talk. And that is the role of a director. And technology can only do so much, but you can create frames using production design, your art department, using actors, blocking, story, sound. There's all these elements that you can do to psychologically guide the audience, because audiences want to be entertained, and they're looking to be entertained. And if you don't give them that grounding point, you have what I call FOMO in VR, fear of missing out, where you're looking around trying to figure out what I should be looking at instead of listening to the story and absorbing the narrative.
Well, it's up to us to create that point of interest, right, in this world. Yeah, and guide them to that. Yeah,
definitely. And I would argue that VR and cinematic VR is less about let's put everything around you and more about the feeling that you're really there.
Right.
It's why I like plating out the bottom, so that you don't see a big black hole. It's why I don't really enjoy 180-degree VR, where you look and you can see like a black line. These things take me out of the immersiveness, take me out of that feeling of presence. And what I want to do is keep you grounded. Right,
that makes sense. So do you feel that there should be limits as to how they can move within the player itself? Or do you feel we should create those limits as the creative professionals within the film itself?
When you mean limits, you mean
meaning the player itself, like you as a creator can say, I don't want the user to be able to move further than 160 degrees.
Right. No, I think that I think you need to give the audience the ability to look
the freedom.
around, the freedom to look around. And I think what you have to do as a filmmaker is you just have to work a little harder to create that interest as a storyteller and give people something to grab onto creatively. You'll be surprised, people will actually compose a frame in VR.
They will themselves. They will be, that's what I'm saying, they're the DP.
Exactly, they're used to doing that.
I found myself doing that. I just watched 5 episodes of Invisible. Have you seen that? And I started following and composing the shot that I wanted to see, and all of a sudden I realized hey, I'm actually the DP here.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. You're creating that sense of place.
But within the world that they wanted me to focus on, which I found that to be interesting as well. I started wondering at the beginning, but then later on I just focused on what they were, how they were guiding me.
I just saw a demo very recently, right? And it was a very interesting demo, but the thing is like, the guy showing it to me was like, hey, take a look at the rock over here. Look at that rock. Look how good that rock looks. And this is I'm not going to name the exact piece, but it wasn't about that rock.
Right.
And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, these filmmakers have a really big problem when the best part of their demo is a rock in a piece, in a place where you don't want them to be looking. You want them to be connected to your character and connected to your narrative.
Right.
And so that really comes in with good storytelling.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And creating things with conflict and characters.
That makes sense. And you're going to be presenting all about that today here at the Metal booth,
Yeah, today at the Metal booth, there's so many talented people here at the Adobe Max conference, and there's so many talented projects, and we've given talks on a lot of the in-depth stuff of what we do, but I thought today I would take a step back, and we'd go a little more macro.
I love that.
We'll talk a little bit more about how do we deliver on that promise of presence, and how do we use the techniques in pre-production, in production, and then in post-production. That's what we use a lot of the metal tools for. Is guiding the narrative using rotate sphere, placing elements in screens using project 2D. These are tools that we can use to help create frames and create storytelling devices to give people that entertainment that I think is really cool in this space.
Definitely. So if people want to check out your site, where can they go?
You can check me out on my website. Our website's lightsailvr.com. Go online, watch all of our work, and if you have a 360 project, you want to chat creatively, just please reach out. We're really open, and we'd love to hear from you.
Great to meet you, Matt.
Likewise.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.